There is no final destination. The journey is the destination because that's where you live all of the time.
Hello, and welcome aboard another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Taylor Morgan. This episode is brought to you by the Captain's Lifestyle Program. That's right, my signature 90-day lifestyle optimization coaching program specifically for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their work-life balance. In it, we go over how to maximize your health, happiness, and productivity so you can fulfill your entrepreneurial vision without burning out. If you'd like more information on the Captain's Lifestyle Program or to apply for coaching, head over to my website at thecaptainslifestyle.com and fill out the initial assessment so we can schedule a free strategy session. Now on to today's show. We have another special guest. His name is Julian Alvarez. Julian is a 24-year-old entrepreneur, software engineer, and podcaster. He's the co-founder and chief technology officer at Vize, which is short for Incentivizing, an early stage startup with the massive transformational purpose. Did I get that right?
Massively transformational purpose.
Right. Massively transformational purpose to help low-income workers find a job that they love and empower them to advance in their professional lives. Vize is currently focused on improving the working conditions at factories in Tijuana, Mexico, where factory workers are often overworked and mistreated. At Vize, Julian works as a full-stack developer, co-leads the engineering and marketing teams, and leads the development of the organization's operations and culture. In January 2021, Julian launched a podcast called Inventing the Future, where his mission is to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs and empower them to solve the world's biggest problems. Julian graduated with a degree in computer science from Texas A&M University in December of 2020, and in June, he will start working as a software engineer with Facebook. That's right, Facebook, at their headquarters in Silicon Valley. Previously, Julian has interned at Facebook, LinkedIn, and Goldman Sachs. Wow, for 24 years old, you've got quite the rap sheet, Julian.
Yeah, I try. Just kidding. But no, it's been a whole journey. Never easy to get there, but it's easier to get there when you constantly try to improve yourself every day. And when you aim yourself at doing the most impactful things that will serve not just yourself, but others. So yeah, it's all a manifestation process when you have the right intentions and actually execute on what you really want the most.
Let's touch on that a little bit, the manifestation of it. What's your journey been with manifestation? When did you find out about that? Because I feel like a lot of people just think that's kind of woo-woo, like doesn't really work. So talk to me about what you've done for manifesting.
Absolutely, yeah. So the way it works for me is that ever since I was really young, I've felt like I was very ambitious. There was something within me that was almost calling me, but initially, this ambition cultivated itself as a desire for money. I just wanted to be rich, be a billionaire, buy whatever the hell I wanted, and have fun.
As most teenage guys do.
As most teenage guys do. But the problem with that is that it's a self-centered ambition. And because it's self-centered, it's hard to have enough motivation to actually do the work you need to do to make that a reality. So fast forward, and what actually happened is that around 5 years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar because I was curious about how I could grow, how I could actually, like I knew I wanted more, but I knew I wasn't doing what I needed to. And I even got to the point where I was like, man, if I keep going down the path I'm going, I'm just going to live a normal path, a normal life. And I knew that I needed to do more. And that's why I took the opportunity to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. And I mean, so many things happened and so many breakthroughs occurred. But if I had to summarize it, I would basically say that before I just had the self-centered ambition of making money, but now Tony gave me a vision of the importance of giving and of living a life of service and of living in service to millions and billions of people around the world. And so I basically redefined my purpose to be something that was much greater than I could ever be individually. And because of that, because I made that shift and that hey, if I grow and become wealthy, it's not just for me, it's what I can give back and what I can do with that, right? Because money is a tool that enables you to extend your impact and allows you to fuel your own growth. So once I made that connection of giving and service and giving to others, and I redefined my purpose to inspire and empower our others to discover what their infinite potential is and to help them manifest it. So it sounds woo and it sounds really high level, but when you're really aligned on what matters the most to your life and to something that is in service of others, you will do everything in your power to make that happen if it's compelling enough to you. And that's what happened. I became so pulled, so captivated by the idea of the service and giving. And I was given basically a roadmap on how to get my psychology and my mindset in the right place and how to live a healthy lifestyle that could actually fuel me with the energy I needed to execute on my dreams. And because of that, when you connect the purpose, the vision of your life, the service, and the impact you want to have on the world, you combine your passions and what you really enjoy, and then you balance a healthy lifestyle and the energy that you need to fuel all of those aspirations. That's why I've been able to do what I've done until now. And it's only a rocket ship onward from now, from here to onward on an exponential trajectory.
To the moon.
To the moon and beyond. The moon is a pit stop, but until we get out into the bounds of the universe, which who knows what the bounds of the universe are, maybe it's infinite and ever expanding, then the journey's onward because there is no final destination. The journey is the destination because that's where you live all of the time. And that's why I love growth, because it doesn't matter how much I grow or learn or become, there's always going to be space for more. And naturally, I want to close that gap and always continue growing. And I think that's why I've been able to learn and do so much for my age, because I'm obsessed about growth and about becoming more. And it's the most beautiful thing. If you can do that, why won't you do that?
100%. And so are you contributing that Tony Robbins event as kind of the Kickstarter to this kind of second, generation of your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had many powerful influences before that, including my parents. But I feel like I had this immense ambition and I didn't have the tools, the mindset, the roadmap on how to actually fulfill it, much less the purpose. My parents didn't give me my purpose or tell me how to find it. And they also didn't help me ignite my passions or give me a roadmap on how to think. They never really taught me how to think or what mindsets are most important to look at life through. And so Tony Robbins really gave me a lot of those keys, and my parents gave me the emotional and intellectual support. But yeah, I would say that was the key turning point, and Tony's wisdom is just from another universe, really.
Yeah, that dude, man, he's on another level. Yeah, I mean, he is like the personal development God, essentially. Like everything else or everybody else, I feel like has descended from Tony Robbins' teachings. And even in real life, he's just a larger than life dude. He's how tall is he? Like 6'7"?
Yeah, he's like 6'7". And so here's the thing. You go to a live seminar and you see this guy that at the time he was like 56. He's like 6'7". He's an absolute massive tank. And he's walking on the stage like for 12, 13, 14 hours straight, like hardly taking any breaks. And he has the highest level of energy I've probably seen in anyone. And it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, how are you doing this? I don't understand. Like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't even pee. Like, literally.
He's got like a catheter going down to a bag in his leg or something.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's insane. And the guy burns like 10,000 calories when he does one of these seminars in a day. So it's like, yeah, he probably like burns all the energy, but he's just so mentally woke and has so much energy. So then like when I saw that, I'm like, how? Like, I don't understand. And then he tells you how. That's literally what the 4 or 5 day seminars are for. And so I was primed just by looking at the innate massiveness of his character and success. So yeah.
Yeah. And not to take anything away from Tony Robbins, he absolutely has something special about him, but he's able to get to that level of energy, not like I guess, Tony Robbins level of energy. Because like I said, there is kind of that extra X factor, whatever it is, but he's able to get there in the first place because he lives this healthy lifestyle. I know specifically that he has a cold plunge out in his backyard that he goes into every day. And so I'm a huge proponent of cold showers, ice baths. Cold showers have been mentioned on pretty much every single podcast where I've interviewed somebody. And so, yeah, cold exposure is absolutely part of that. Do you take cold showers?
I do actually. Yeah. And here's the thing, the benefit of cold showers is not just the health and the energy, which, you know, there's science that actually shows it's super healthy. It's and you don't need science. Like, you feel it. Like you wake the hell up. But apart from that, it's also, as you said, the mental side, the psychological side. When you know you don't want to do something and your mind is hesitant and it's trying to create some false narrative to try to get you to not do it, and you do it anyway, what you're teaching your mind is to not negotiate with your mind. You're telling it, it's like, hey, I'm in control. I don't care about what comfort you want or what you want. I'm going to guide you and direct you toward what we both need. Not what we want, but what we need. And what we need is the energy to thrive and the health to help us become our greatest selves. Because you have to differentiate between what do I want right now and what do I want the most in life? And the two are often at odds. Right now, you want junk food, you want sex, you want video games, you want instant gratification. But what you want the most is a fulfilling life, a life full of impact, a life where you're serving others and helping others. And the thing is that they don't always connect. So if you can make that separation between the two things and actively train your mind to consistently do what you want the most, then cold showers aren't just about energy. It's also about the psychology of training your mind to do hard shit.
Exactly. And, you know, the excuse that everybody gives me for why they don't take cold showers is it's hard or it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, motherfucker, that's the fucking point. Like, you do it because it's hard. You do it in order to get uncomfortable. Like, that's the whole point of it.
Yep.
And I see you've got a ring on your hand. Is that the Aura ring?
It is the Aura ring. Yeah. Because what gets measured gets managed. And when you have data on how you're actually performing and doing, you can make better informed decisions on how to improve something or to analyze whether something is working or not. So yeah, that is a core principle of growth, right? And fortunately the Aura measures sleep, but I try to measure other things in my productivity and how I do things and making sure I'm driving outcomes. And like anytime I try something, whether it's a food, I try to use my awareness as a key point of measurement to see whether it's actually driving the results that I want.
Yeah, love that. What gets tracked gets measured, 100%. So in my program, I suggest my clients use the Whoop strap just because that's what I have. That's what I've used. I'm familiar with that dashboard. So yeah, the two big players in the sleep tracking game are Whoop and Aura. Actually, I think there's another one, BioStrap, that came out recently. I'm not too familiar with that one though. But tell me a little bit about the Aura ring and why you track your sleep.
For sure. So firstly, your sleep is the most fundamental layer of your health, because you can eat really well, you can do a lot of exercise, you can meditate, but if you don't sleep well, it's kind of like sleep is a multiplier on all of those other things. Like, it's just gonna make everything horrible. So sleep really is at the core. And I mean, there's so much science. I would recommend the two books, Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson and Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Those will give you the whole overview on the importance of sleep and how to actually improve it. But basically, it's a core pillar of health. And if you optimize your health, you maximize your energy. And with that, you can do more of the things that you love. So that's sleep. And the Aura ring measures a lot of things, such as when you went to sleep, when you woke up, how much time you spent in deep sleep versus REM sleep versus light sleep. It gives you all these metrics. And what I kind of look at is which of these metrics are not where I want them to be. Like, for example, right now I'm getting a ton of deep sleep, but I'm not getting that much light sleep. So I'm trying to figure out and try different things that can help me get more light sleep. And so now you can run experiments on yourself. and be like, hey, like, what if I go to sleep before 11 p.m. or before 10 p.m.? Does that affect it? What if I drink decaffeinated tea? Does that affect it? What if I don't use my screen an hour before I go to sleep? Does that affect it? And so you kind of like have all these variables that you can test and experiment to drive certain outcomes and improve your sleep. And because you have the data, you know what's working and what's not.
How much deep sleep are you getting?
I'm getting a lot. It's like 30 to 40% of my sleep. So about 3 to 4 hours. So it's actually a ton, like
Holy
an abundance of sleep.
Yeah. I've never seen that much. I don't get that much. None of my clients have ever gotten that much. That's crazy. How much REM sleep?
I'm only getting about like 10 to 15%. So about an hour, hour and a half. So not that much. Yeah. That's the metric I'm trying to optimize for right now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I really want to emphasize the fact that you said sleep is basically the baseline for everything else in your life. Like, and that's what I teach in the program. Like all these high performing entrepreneurs, like they want to, they think that, you know, the myth that you have to sacrifice your sleep in order to get ahead in business, they think that applies. Like that's a myth. Like that doesn't really exist. Maybe in the first few, days as a startup, like you got to grind. And there are some days where you're going to have to, work a little bit extra. But if through your day-to-day life, you're getting less than 7 hours of sleep, you are absolutely sacrificing your productivity, not to mention your health and happiness. Like sleep literally is the core pillar of everything else in your life. So if your sleep is not optimized, nothing else in your life will be optimized. And you might think like, oh yeah, I can get by on 6 hours of sleep. Yeah, of course you can get by. Everybody can get by on 6 hours of sleep, but do you want to live your life just getting by and surviving like an average? Or do you want to thrive? Do you want to maximize your potential and maximize your productivity? So to me, it's a no-brainer. Like entrepreneurs or anybody for that matter who sleeps less than 7 hours and who doesn't take it seriously is leaving gains, like physical, like strength gains, mental gains, and monetary gains on the table. It's sad that people still think that they have to do that. So I'm glad that you're on board with that.
Yeah. Here's how I think about it, because you may think that, oh, if I go exercise or, oh, if I sleep too much, it's taking away time from me. Like these things take time, or if I meditate, it takes time. But the thing is that if you think about it, at the end of the day, what you're trying to maximize for is not how much you work. What you're trying to optimize for is outcomes, is like what you're actually producing, what you're executing on. And so then the question is, there's two options. You can either invest more time to do that thing, or you can do that work more efficiently and effectively. And how do you do something more efficiently and effectively? By being more cognitively functional, and also by being more focused and just more efficient in how you're actually working. How do you do that? Well, the key to peak performance is to have peak energy. And the key to peak energy is to have an optimal level of health. And sleep, of course, is fundamental to that. So this is what I think about. Yes, if I sleep more, it's going to take more time away. Yes, if I go exercise, it's going to take more time away. But because I'm taking the time, I'm getting more energy. And with that energy, I'm able to do my work more efficiently and effectively. So actually, it's sleep and exercise aren't taking away time for me. They're giving me a return on time, right? It's kind of like if you invest money, like, yeah, you're putting money away, but it's growing and it's returning as more over time if you leave it there. It's the same thing here. Yeah, you're giving time and you're investing it, but you're getting way more time back in your ability to be more efficient with that time.
Exactly. And people sometimes demonize Gary Vee because they think that he doesn't sleep very much, but he's stated multiple times that he gets 6, 7, 8 hours, sometimes 9+ on the weekends. And he says that it's not about, sacrificing your sleep. It's about what you do when you're awake, maximizing your productivity when you're awake. And the best way to do that is by optimizing your sleep. But everybody always wants to go to these like crazy hacks like nootropics and all these time management strategies. Yes, both of those can absolutely help. But if your sleep isn't dialed in, you're basically just putting a Band-Aid on like a artery wound. It's it's not going to do much good. Yo, Taylor here. So I'm sure you've heard me harp on sleep and basically every single podcast and video that I put out, because it truly is that important. And I'm excited to announce that I've created something very simple and very tactical that you guys can use to start improving your sleep immediately. In fact, it is the fastest way to improve the quality of your sleep and therefore the quality of your life, with amazing results after just one single night of implementation. Seriously, this is the same nightly ritual that I personally use, and it's the same strategy that I teach all of my high-performing clients in the Captain's Lifestyle program. It's the 4-3-2-1-30 method, and I'm giving it away to you guys for free. All you have to do is follow the link in my Instagram bio or in the show notes of this podcast, and I'll send it over so you can start sleeping better tonight. But please do not sleep on this offer. It's literally free. So no excuses. Go do it, and sweet dreams. So off the topic of sleep, because we could go all day on sleep, but I want to know, what was it that originally like drew you to that Tony Robbins seminar? Like, what was it that made you say, I need to go to this?
Yeah, I would say that it was a feeling of knowing that I wanted more and was capable of more, but not knowing what I needed to do in order to close that gap. And again, it's like I knew that I wasn't doing what I needed to do to live the life that I wanted to live. And I needed something. I was desperate for a solution. I didn't know what the solution was, but I was primed for the solution. And when the opportunity for a Tony seminar came, boom, I jumped on it right away.
And those things aren't cheap, right?
Nope.
So I just want people to understand this. Like, when somebody says something is expensive, so I recorded a podcast a few months ago on the one area of your life that deserves an unlimited budget. And I believe that that's the personal development category, because learning new skills and developing yourself, that lasts forever, and there should be almost no thought on purchasing something if you know for a fact that it will benefit you in the future. So the formula that I introduced in the podcast was, first off, define your goals. Define who you want to be, what you want to achieve, what you want to be remembered for, all that stuff. That's like the mission, vision, value, purpose type thing. So that's the base. Once you do that, then you have to identify all the obstacles that are stopping you from becoming that person. Once you identify those obstacles, anytime a buying decision comes up, you want to ask, okay, what problem does this seminar, course, whatever, solve? And what is that problem solved worth to me? Not the monetary value, but like what benefit will I get out of having this problem solved? So for example, going to the gym, like a gym membership could be $200+ a month. Okay, that's the monetary cost, but what is the personal gain from that? Well, if you're consistent with it, you get a better body. With a better body, you feel more energized, and with more energy, you're able to be more productive in your business. And when you're able to be more productive, you're able to come home to your wife a little bit earlier and not work all night. And when you come home a little bit earlier, you can have more sex because you're not stressed out from work. And then it's like that one little thing makes your whole entire life better. So $200 for a better life, like, of course. And then, for something like Tony Robbins, like, if you know that that's going to create massive change in your life, which obviously it's fucking Tony Robbins, doesn't really matter what the price of that is. Like, that will set you up for success for the rest of your life, which it clearly has.
Yep. Yeah. And what I would suggest there is, don't look at these sort of things like costs. Look at them as investments, because, when you invest money, you call it investment. You don't say like, oh, like, this stock cost me whatever. It's like all of these things are investments, and investing in yourself is the most valuable place that you can put your money, because you're the one that sees and experiences and feels the return. And the return on investment is often the greatest when you invest in yourself. So don't ask like, how much is the seminar going to cost? or how much is this course going to cost, but rather what investment do I need to make in this in order to achieve the results that I want.
100%. And I know you've invested in some other courses and coaching programs. You want to talk a little bit about what those were?
For sure. Yeah. I've invested, like right now, the most recent investment I made was for a program called Zero to Dangerous by Steven Kotler. It's basically a program on peak performance and how to optimize flow. And flow is a state of performance where you feel your best and do your best work. And so I invested a ton of money into this, but here's the thing. Every time I've paid for something, almost every time I've paid for something, the investment has been like well worth the money that I invested. And so the thing is, like, people will never spend money on things like this because it's like there's already a lot of free content online and all of that stuff. But that's great. There is a lot of great free online content, but I have found from my personal experience that when I pay for something, the quality of the content is usually much higher and much more valuable. And also, when you pay for something, like, you are invested in it and you're more likely to get more out of it because you're like, well, fuck, dude, I paid hundreds or thousands of dollars for this. Might as well get something out of it. And if you get something for free, you typically don't value it. So one, you get a higher quality content or whatever it is when you pay for something. And two, you value it more because you actually put money into it.
Yeah, you're bought in. And my program, everybody else's program out there, there's no new like radical secret, like every single piece of information in the world, I think, is somewhere free out there. Like Google, the library, like the information is out there. All these courses and programs are doing are making it much more easier on you. So reducing your stress, the amount of time that it would take you to go search and find these things on your own, and giving you accountability, which is huge. So, and then also, like you mentioned, once you pay for it, you're bought in. Like for me, I just recently hired a business coach, and that was like 12 grand. And it's like, okay, I know that I'm going to get a return on investment. One, because he's a fantastic business coach, and two, because I'm not going to let my 12 grand go to waste. Like, I'm going to implement all of this knowledge, and I know that I'm going to, in the long run, make more by investing right now. So yeah, this is absolutely one of the reasons why you've been able to achieve so much at such a young age, is because you're investing so much in yourself. So with that said, talk to me a little bit about Vize, your company.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Vize is essentially a glass door for developing countries. And what that means is that we enable factory workers in Tijuana, Mexico, to share their their work experiences anonymously in a public forum, right? So if you worked at a factory, you can go on Vize, write a review, and talk about how it was actually like to work there. And the idea is that the transparency will help increase the awareness of what these working conditions are like, so that workers can make better informed decisions about where to work, and factories can know what they need to know to improve working conditions, and so that they can be held accountable and actually improve. And the problem here at large is that these factory workers are often overworked. They work in unsafe and unsanitary working conditions, and sometimes they're made false promises, such as, like, for example, they're told that, hey, come work with us, we'll give you Social Security or health insurance. And then when they actually get there, none of that is fulfilled. So there's a lot of abuse for these workers, and there's not a lot of accountability. So the idea is that the transparency will create the accountability. And factories also have a whole bunch of problems for themselves. Like, many of these factories experience turnover rates of 90 to 120% of their workforce every year. And they therefore have to spend massive amounts of money on recruiting and training workers. So there's a lot of problems on both sides. And at a higher level, our mission is to just help workers find better jobs, and to find a job that they truly love, and to empower them to advance in their professional careers. And we want to enable factories to not just do good socially because they have to and because it's a nice thing to do, but do socially responsible things because it's what's actually most beneficial for their company. And so, yeah, that's an overview of Vize.
Awesome. So I want to touch on that last part that you mentioned, doing good just because that's not just because that's, you know, the right thing to do, but because overall that's what's best for your company. Can you explain what you mean by that a little bit? Because I think the majority of companies today, they try to cut costs whenever possible, you know, going for single-use plastics because that's the cheaper option, or like, especially what you're mentioning, like not treating their workers correctly. So talk to me a little bit about why doing everything, you know, ethically and sustainably will actually be better for the companies in the long run.
Absolutely. And I'll explain that by giving you an example. So when I went to Tijuana, Mexico myself, and I spoke to some of the factory workers on the streets, one of the factory workers told me that he's worked at 8 different factories and he hasn't felt respected at a single one of them. Like, can you imagine that? You go to 8 different jobs and the most basic human need of feeling respected and valued, at none of the 8 of them he felt respected. So let's think about like how that makes the worker feel, and like, are you going to want to stay? Like, why did he go to 8 different ones? It's probably because he didn't feel valued or respected. And let's think about it now from the factory's perspective. How much money, how much effort does it take to respect someone, right? To tell them like, hey, great job. We appreciate your work. You're doing awesome. You've really done an awesome job for the team. Like, that doesn't cost anything, right? That's like literally zero cost, and you'd improve retention significantly, which is going to help drive down costs and help them do. So everyone wins in that situation. Workers feel valued and respected, which is an essential and fundamental human need. And because of that, they stay longer at the company, at the factory. And the factories benefit by like, hey, I don't have to invest that much more, except maybe like training my managers on how to be more respectful, for example. And they save a ton of money from not having to hire and train as many people. So that's a very basic example of how you can do good without it necessarily meaning that you have to spend a ton of money.
And they'll also make more because workers who are fulfilled in their jobs and who actually enjoy working will do better quality work. They'll actually want to do work and improve the company because they enjoy it. So
yep,
it's probably the dumbest thing to not treat your employees well. Like, it's ridiculous. So it's amazing that you guys are doing that. And currently you're just in Tijuana.
That's correct. Yeah, we're still an early stage startup. So right now we're currently in Tijuana. But if you step back and look at it, like, there's literally billions of low skilled workers around the world. Like, it's not just factory workers, and it's not just Tijuana, and it's not just Mexico. Like, this is a problem all over the world. Even in the US, many of the low skilled workers don't feel as respected or get treated as fairly well. So when you think about the scope of the problem, it's billions of people. They experience the problem almost on a daily basis because you go to work 5 to 6 days a week. And what the intensity of the problem is massive because, like, you know, when you do feel disrespected or you don't feel valued, like, the intensity of how you feel is extremely high. So yeah, it's a growing problem, and that's why we really want to do something about it. And something also that we fundamentally believe is that having a job that you love is a human right. Like, you shouldn't have to get a job that is just like that you don't get treated well, or that is just like, okay, like, doing something you love and feel actually passionate about is a human right. And unfortunately, most of the world and billions of people are not there yet. So a lot of companies and solutions are helping people at the top self-actualize, which I think is great. But it's important to realize that there's so many people at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs that are living in scarcity and are living in survival mode. And that's where most people exist. And that's where the greatest amount of suffering exists. And that's therefore where I think the greatest opportunity exists not only for impact, but also for driving revenue and being able to help these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now tell me about your podcast, because it sounds like your podcast is geared towards developing the next generation of entrepreneurs. So this doesn't really continue to be an issue.
Exactly. So on one side, I feel that it's important for me to build products, companies, and services that are able to reach billions of people and help them in a meaningful way. But I also want to make sure that I'm impacting people through my message and through my thoughts and inspiring others to do the things that inspire them. So the podcast Inventing the Future is an entrepreneurship podcast that specifically has the mission of inspiring and empowering young entrepreneurs to solve the world's biggest problems. Now, there's several things here, like why, for example, the focus on the world's biggest problems. Well, Peter Diamandis has a great quote where he says that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest opportunities. And they're the biggest opportunities in three different ways. The first is that it's a huge opportunity for impact. Like the more, if you have a billion person problem, like the bigger the problem you solve, the more impact that you're going to have on the world. So that's the first. The second is it's a massive opportunity for growth. Like the bigger the problem is, the harder it is to solve, which means the more that you have to demand yourself to grow to actually be able to figure out how to solve it. And it's hard as shit for a reason, but that means that you get to grow more, which is actually a better opportunity for yourself to develop yourself, both personally and professionally. And third, and finally, is that the bigger the problem is, the bigger the opportunity is also financially. Like if the best way to become a billionaire is to solve a billion person problem, right? And so when you think on that scale, not only are you serving yourself to the highest degree by focusing on the world's biggest problems, but you're also serving the world in the greatest way possible. So there's a focus on that. And then the other point I'll touch on is on why specifically entrepreneurship. Well, I personally believe that entrepreneurship and exponential technologies like VR, AR, blockchain, 3D printing, and all of that, and AI are some of the most powerful tools that we have today to be able to solve problems. So one, there's massive problems. So then it's like, how do we solve them? Through entrepreneurship and technology. So when you merge those two, you realize that today it's easier to start a company than ever before. It's cheaper to do so. The cost of technology has gone down exponentially over time, and the power of technology has increased exponentially. So today is literally the best day to start a company. So just fucking do it. And so, yeah, that's the key ideas. And finally, what I'll touch on is that many people in our education system, we're not really told very much about entrepreneurs. We're not really communicated many stories about them. So I think the younger generations, like Gen Zs and some millennials, like just don't have a great awareness of what entrepreneurship is, or how to get into it, or why it's important, or why it's something you might want to pursue. So I want to specifically help young entrepreneurs learn more about entrepreneurship, inspire them, but also give them the tools on how to start and how to actually start an idea and take it to the next level so that they can impact others and make the most of themselves.
I agree 100%. That's why I chose to work with entrepreneurs too, and specifically founders of charitable companies, because I believe that successful CEOs are the ones who care about themselves, because as we already talked about, you have to be optimized in order to not only be healthy and happy, but also run a successful business. That's why all these CEOs and top level executives, they almost all have high performance coaches, in some way, shape, or form, because that's a requirement now. Okay. If you don't have some sort of coach, or if you aren't optimized, like, you're already falling behind. So they have to care about themselves, their health, happiness, and their productivity. They also have to care about their workers, like you mentioned, because once they care about their workers, not only do they build happier relationships with the workers, which can pay off in a whole bunch of ways, but also it creates better business for their company. And then 3, they have to care about their impact on the environment. because I don't believe that successful companies in the future will be able to have a negative impact on the environment, because consumers are starting to become aware of their buying decisions, like single-use plastic, like I already mentioned, and the carbon footprint, and regeneratively farmed beef for like agriculture and all that type of stuff. So consumers are voting with their dollars, and as time goes on, more and more people are starting to realize, oh, instead of voting, which I'm not saying voting is bad, but politics is so fucked up that I really don't think that voting makes that big of a difference. If you really want to make a social impact, vote with your dollars. Spend money on the things that you believe in, and the things on the companies who are doing it right. Because that is where all the change comes from. It's all monetary driven, because all politics is who has more money and who is funding who. Unfortunately, but that's how it is, and it's bullshit. So if you really want to make change, start by investing in, aka buying, supporting these companies. And you mentioned blockchain. Are you familiar with BitClout?
I'm not familiar with BitClout. I've only more as of recently in the last 2 months been going deeper into blockchain. So some of it's still new, but I'm gaining fundamental understandings at the time. Okay,
gotcha. So by the time this podcast comes out, who knows where it will be, but I think it's currently maybe a month old, and it's essentially a decentralized social media platform. It's basically like a Twitter, and on that platform right now, it's a lot of creators, especially, and you can invest in people who you think will succeed. So you buy what's called BitClout, and with that, you can, like I said, invest in people who you think will succeed, because then the price goes up, and it's kind of like, like there's a Taylor Morgan coin, because I created one, and people invest in me if they think that me and the Captain's Lifestyle will continue to grow and benefit people. So it's right now, it's essentially like a fun game kind of thing, because there's no official way to offload your money. There's third party, people who do it, but a lot of people currently think it's a scam, but I think that it's going to take off here pretty soon. And why I'm bringing this up is because there's profiles on there who are specifically geared towards improving society, the environment, whatever. The one that comes to mind specifically is one that's called Plant a Tree. And for every, it used to be $1, but they might have changed it to $5 because so many people are investing in them. For every $5 that is invested into them, they plant a tree. And it's amazing. Like I invested into them, of course. And the more they grow, the more trees get planted. And so that's just an example of how blockchain technology, especially because it's decentralized. So, Mark Zuckerberg, for example, can't say, oh, nope, you're banned. I don't like what you're doing. Like nobody has that sort of control over it. And so I think that would be a good way. I suggest just go create an account just to have it, just to claim your, real estate, just to have the Julian Alvarez name.
Yeah. And to claim my clout.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the name is what it is, BitClout. Also, I suggest getting on BizFluence. Have you heard of that? It's essentially another LinkedIn. I just interviewed the co-founder of it yesterday, actually, and I've only been using it for 4 days, but my very first post, and I had no followers, I just signed up for an account. My very first post got a bunch of comments. That's how I booked him for the podcast. So people on there are definitely willing to connect. It's like a LinkedIn where you get more interaction, and you can post in specific groups, like environmental groups, working groups. And so it's really cool. So I suggest setting that up as well.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I'll check it out. The only similar one I've seen is Join Entre, which is like LinkedIn for entrepreneurs. And that one's fairly new as well. But yeah, a social network specifically for entrepreneurs. It's still fairly new, but it looks interesting. And awesome. The conversation is a lot more focused.
Yeah, I'll check that one out as well. Because as entrepreneurs, one of the best ways to grow your impact and grow your business is to make connections with real people. Your network is your net worth. So yeah, getting your message out there, which you're doing right now, this podcast, your podcast, So with all that said, tell people where they can follow you, your impact, everything that you got going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at julian.alvarez42. If you are a young entrepreneur that's interested in taking entrepreneurship to the next level or just curious about it, you can visit inventingthefuture.ai, the website for the podcast, or just follow us on Instagram, inventing.the.future. And other than that, if you want to learn more about Vize, you can go to vize.mx, MX for Mexico, not .com, and Vize is VIZE. And I also did a podcast with my CEO. So on my podcast, so that's another great way to learn more about Vize and what we're doing and what our mission and vision is.
Thank you for coming on. And I love everything you're doing, not only from the personal development standpoint, but also what you're doing with your business and your podcast, helping empower the next generation. I think it's all amazing. So just thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Taylor. Love the mission and your specific focus on entrepreneurs that are impact focused. So I appreciate it. Loved the conversation and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Julian.